A murder in the digital age. The killing of Mashal Khan, captured and posted online by his fellow students. He was lynched after being falsely accused of blasphemy on Facebook.
In Pakistan, any content insulting Islam and its Prophet Muhammad is considered blasphemous and is punishable by law.
We are highly ashamed as a nation, and I think it's most disgusting and absolutely barbaric as to what happened to Mashal Khan.
But since it's not clear exactly what constitutes as blasphemy, critics say it has become a tool to silence dissent. They point to the 2016 cybercrimes law as proof. Then there is the recent implementation of the Pakistan Electronic Media Regulatory Authority, or PEMRA ordinance.
Its vague language with regards to preserving the ideology of Pakistan has been used to silence criticism of the state, according to critics.
And now, Pakistan's government has detained social media activists for what it says was an organized campaign against the armed forces. It follows a messaging campaign encouraging average citizens to report content which could be perceived as hurting religious sentiments or undermining the state. The government and supporters of the measures say they are an essential requirement in the digital age, but thousands of blocked websites and dozens of silenced bloggers disagree. Ali Mustafa, The Newsmakers.
Well, joining me now from Islamabad is Taha Siddiqui. He's a Pakistani journalist and is on the list issued by the Federal Investigation Agency in Pakistan for operating a social media account that allegedly defamed the armed forces and the state. Also from Islamabad is Ahmed Raza Qasuri. He's a former member of parliament and legal advisor to former President Pervez Musharraf. He was also involved in the drafting of Pakistan's constitution. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Taha, let me begin with you. What did you say that was deemed problematic and you were called in? What happened? Tell us.
Well, the Federal Investigation Agency asked me to come over, but I told them that I will not. And I've approached the Islamabad High Court now for relief, and they have said that they have instructed the Federal Investigation Agency to not harass me and have asked them to act in accordance to law. But that is the problem. We do not know what law they're coming after me or other social media activists or journalists. They're basically just calling people out, intimidating them, harassing them, telling them to come over, detaining them illegally, taking over their cell phones, taking over their laptops, and just confiscating their material. And basically, I mean, as far as if I've published anything, any content which is offensive, basically there are these contents of incitement to violence or, for example, hate speech. My work is related to journalism. My work is related to reporting on Pakistani issues, and Pakistan is a security state. Given that the military is one of the things that has a footprint in almost all walks of lives in Pakistan, and because of that, we talk about military a lot, and social media is a tool that I use to propagate my work, to disseminate my work. And in that sense, I've been talking about the military, doing constructive criticism about the military. Sometimes we do sarcasm about the military, but in a democracy, all these things are allowed and should be done. Instead of that, they're basically, the government is trying to spin this into the fact that, as you also mentioned, and then the report also mentioned, that this is blasphemy. Yesterday, when the Interior Minister did a press conference, in that also he tried to spin it into that armed forces, instead of talking about what we're talking about, the armed forces, why we're criticizing them, because they're present in the political sphere of Pakistan. Instead of focusing on that, he said he spinned it into the fact that, oh, this is blasphemy, people are talking against religion. So he's inciting people actually against people like us who speak very openly and critically about military policies in the country.
Okay, Ahmed Raza Qasuri, do you think this is fair, and do you think this is the Pakistan that you fought for and the Pakistan that you've served, where people can say things on Facebook and others can incite against them and say, hey, this is blasphemous, this is anti-state? Facebook allows the government to pressure these people or to persecute these people, according to some. Is that really what you want for your country?
See, Pakistan is an Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and it came into being on 14th of August 1947 with the very strong urges of the Muslim community of undivided India to carve out a homeland where they could live according to the principles of Islam. Unfortunately, that has not been achieved so far, but process is going on. So as far as the blemishes laws are concerned, let me tell you that it's not only for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it protects also all the prophets, even Jesus and Moses. If anybody were to make
but that's still under an Islamic interpretation,
their dignity.
Undoubtedly. So, Mr. Kasuri, let me come in with one example. Firstly, that's still under the Islamic interpretation of other religions. These are prophets of Islam as well as some other religions. But let me bring in one example of a young Pakistani Christian boy, 16 years old, accused of blasphemy. His name is Nabil Masih. So we've established that when the Pakistani government pressures Facebook to give information or to block something, they do it. So social media is on the side of the government in this case, right? So you have this boy. He's been in jail since September of last year. He was arrested on charges of blasphemy for liking and sharing a Facebook post which allegedly defamed and disrespected the Kaaba in Mecca. Is that right? Is that justified?
See, the position is that since I'm also a very senior attorney at law, Supreme Court of Pakistan, I'm of the firm view that before police proceed with this kind of a situation, there should be a thorough examination, because many false complaints are registered, and this is such a dangerous kind of a law that if a case is registered against you, you had it. So
right.
I personally feel that there should be check and balance, that if there is an information or report that somebody is involved in blemishes laws, then in that situation, the matter should be referred to a magistrate who should find out whether the information is based on whole truth or is based on malafide
right.
and malicious attitude.
Okay.
And if it is found that person who has reported wrongly, he should be dealt very firmly, because
okay.
that's very serious.
Good point. Okay, so that was he was charged under sections 295 and 295A under the Pakistan Penal Code. Nabil Masih, 16 years old, still in jail. Taha, do you agree with that? That if there's evidence, fine, let people be prosecuted for blasphemy. If there isn't, and if people are wrongfully using this as a tool and they're just picking out your social media posts and using it as an instrument to get back at you and to try and get you in trouble, then the law should go after them for wrongfully doing so. Do you agree with that, Taha?
Well, I mean, because I'm a journalist and I've been reporting on issues of blasphemy myself, I've met with several cases of these and I've investigated them. Most of the time, blasphemy is a cover that is used for settling other disputes, usually disputes between Christians and Muslims, property disputes, jealousy in a neighborhood, and usually it's when you come down, love affairs also, a man falling in love with a woman who's Christian or from another religion, then using blasphemy to sort of, kind of punish the family in some way. So majority of the cases, when they come to light, when investigations are done, they turn out to be false allegations, and that is the thing that we're saying, that this is what happens at the public level. Now the government is doing the same thing. The government is using blasphemy as a cover to silence dissent. We've seen that earlier in January when bloggers went missing and were abducted allegedly by state agencies in Pakistan. When they recovered, they could not live in Pakistan anymore because they were condemned in a way that there was an online organized campaign against them saying that they have done blasphemy, when as all they had done was free speech. They were just talking about issues in the country, they were talking about religiosity in the country, but it was
right.
spinned into such a way that they were termed as blasphemers and they had to run away. So the government again is doing the same thing, that they're using this tool of blasphemy, this threat of blasphemy and silencing dissent. Also at the same time, another aspect of this is that
I want to pose this to Ahmed, so very
go,
briefly, Taha, finish your point. Yes.
Yes. So basically, when you go to Facebook, like you've been mentioning that Facebook has been collaborating with the Pakistani government. If you go on Facebook in Pakistan, you know the radical groups pages of Taliban, pages of militant groups, pages which are radicalizing the youth, they are openly operating. Which pages are being shut down? Pages that are being shut down are pages from, you know, talking about the Balochistan rights, talking about Gilgit-Baltistan rights, talking about minority rights, religious minority rights, sexual minority rights. Those are the pages that they are clamping down on and shutting down. So in a way, they want to have a very narrow-minded sense of identity in Pakistan, not just in the curriculum which we see in the schools, in the media, but now also on social media.
Let me ask you, are you disappointed in a company, and these are all tech companies, but we're focusing a lot on Facebook here because its relationship with the Pakistani government is under scrutiny. Are you disappointed in Facebook, Taha?
Well, definitely, because Facebook is a platform which is bigger than just Pakistan. It's a global platform, and it is becoming one of the most important platforms for news sharing. We do know that it is playing a big role in all democracies around the world. So it should act more responsibly and should be answerable to the people of Pakistan rather than the government of Pakistan, which is known to silence dissent.
And then let me then ask you, Taha, because we have these leaked documents that came out from The Guardian on the Facebook censor's guidelines, right? And I've got a list of things here. The Guardian said Facebook's moderators were overwhelmed. They only had a few seconds to decide if posts should stay, or, you know, whether something was a threat or whether it was hateful, pornography, violent, whatever, you name it, supporting terror. So with that in mind, given that they're completely overwhelmed and they have these young people there, you know, going through this universe of information, don't you understand, from their point of view, it makes it easier for them if a government can just say, hey, we'll do that for you. We'll tell you what's blasphemous. We'll tell you what's hateful. We'll tell you what's incitement. We'll sort it out, and you can just block it, or you can just give us the information. Do you understand it from that perspective, Taha?
Well, I do understand what you're trying to say, but unfortunately, the Pakistani government has not been honest when it comes to these things, when it comes to sharing information with the international sort of platforms like Facebook or even other platforms or other agencies of around the world. They usually keep their own strategic interests and not really, you know, it's not about democratic values with the Pakistani government. So we need to understand that. We need to understand where Pakistan is coming from. It's a country which has had military dictatorships for more than half of its existence. It is coming from a background where, you know, a political debate is stifled, speech is, you know, a political speech is not allowed. So all of that, keeping in that mind, the Facebook should, there are other means, you know, you can make a committee, for example, there are digital rights activists in Pakistan who are, you know, reputable digital rights activists who have a reputation of being honest and free and fair. Involve them, you know, when the Pakistan Electronic Crimes Cyber Bill that came out last year, all the digital rights activists, friends of mine, colleagues of mine, they were all saying that this is wrong, we should not do this, but the government went ahead with it and passed it and made it into a law. But these are the people that need to be consulted, even to the extent that, you know, those meetings that happened when the law was being formed, they said we will have public meetings, but they went on to have private meetings or not informing the public about those meetings, and then later on said we did have public meetings. Right. So the government is completely dishonest, and there is a large civil society in Pakistan that is quite active, that knows its rights, that
and that's a good point.
Should be that Facebook should engage with.
Okay, so let's pose that point to Ahmed Raza Qusuri. Isn't it better if Facebook engages with civil society in Pakistan, not just the Pakistani government, but the Pakistani people as well, whether it's lawyers, activists, digital rights advocates, and so on, so that these claims of blasphemy, of being anti-state, of being anti-military, and so on, aren't used as weapons to whack whoever you don't like, aren't used as tools to stifle dissent, but actually when it's relevant and when it can be verifiable, as you mentioned earlier on, if somebody's really inciting to violence or if somebody's really being anti-state, sure, fine, those people can be prosecuted. But that Facebook and those in social media can actually come up with a solution with the Pakistani people rather than this opaque government. What do you think, sir?
You see, the position is that people in the West look for something negative. And if they find something negative, there's a publicity blast in the West to see through the media, print and electronic both. And then some of our journalists that we have are also Western-oriented. Their loyalties are not very clear.
Are you talking about Taha?
Are
you talking about Taha?
I'm not talking. I'm talking generally. I'm talking generally.
Okay.
So the position is that the West, as I said, always look for something negative. For instance, you know, if one Christian is unfortunately in his own personal grudge is killed, well, you will have a resolution in the American Senate. But if we do many positive things in this country, not a news appear in the West. So that kind of a prejudice we do face from the Western press, but we don't bother. We don't bother, we move forward. Let me tell you that we have Article 19 of the Constitution, which cover fundamental rights of expression and the freedom of speech, the freedom of press. But there is the freedom of press and freedom of the expression cannot be uncontrolled. I mean, in every civilized country,
and that's
if
why,
there's a freedom of
sure,
press,
we're talking about the limits here.
Expression,
we're talking about the limits and who gets to define those limits. That's why we're having this discussion.
Keeping in mind the integrity of the country. Now, as far as Pakistan is concerned, armed forces are highly respected, highly respected institution. And people in this country feel that anybody who is trying to criticize armed forces of Pakistan is, in fact, working for someone to destabilize this country.
But how would you like it? Let me ask you, how would you like it if you went on Facebook and you said, I think our army can do better, right? Just that. And there was a witch hunt against you for being anti-state or anti-armed forces, and people wanted you in jail. How would you feel? You'd want a fair trial, wouldn't you? You wouldn't want a witch hunt.
See, the position is that the people who get hold of this kind of a crowd, they are very clear that who is speaking and who is commenting. So they know their background, their history, and accordingly they behave, and accordingly they act. So they know from which frequency somebody is talking.
So can someone like...
It's not very difficult to find out.
Can someone like Taha say, our army needs to do better on a Facebook post and not fear reprisal?
Well, Taha has his own point of view, and he has a right to form his own opinion, but I totally disagree with this kind of stand which he has taken up. See, our armed forces are very, very patriotic, and they are defending our national independence, our integrity, and our solidarity. And people love, in every nook and corner of Pakistan, people love our armed forces.
Okay, gentlemen, unfortunately we are out of time, but it's been good to have this conversation. I sincerely appreciate it. And Mr. Kasuri, this is not because we're from the West trying to find negative things about Pakistan. I think this was very important that we had two Pakistanis talk us through this phenomenon happening in the country right now. Ahmed Raza Kasuri and Taha Siddiqui, thank you very much for joining us.